Danger, tragedy, and controversy abound in Duane "The Rock" Chapman's life, which could hold its own in an action flick. His extraordinary adventure began with his days in a motorcycle gang and ended with him being the star of a legendary reality TV show. What could have possibly pushed the seemingly invincible man to the verge of complete collapse? There is a tale full of shocking, undiscovered mysteries and an unexpected route behind the famous sunglasses and bounty hunter reputation. Where did Dog the Bounty Hunter go from there? Keep watching to find out. Duane "The Dog" Chapman, the renowned bounty hunter, had a difficult upbringing that molded him into the man he is today. He was born into a working-class household in Denver, Colorado. Once a Navy welder turned bail bond agent, his father was a harsh and violent figure in his son's life. As a Sunday school teacher, his mother did her best to inculcate strong moral principles in her son. Despite his eventual realization of how challenging his childhood had been, Duane first portrayed it as fairly ordinary. Duane accepted his father's violent outbursts as par for the course when he was a kid. Even the paddle his dad used hurt him and left him injured, he even mentioned it. His father, who was known as Flash because to his impressive boxing abilities, instilled in him the art of fighting from an early age and the belief that it would fortify him. All Duane wanted, though, was his dad's approval and love. But when Duane was 16 years old, he made the decision to abandon his family and join the Devil's Disciples, a motorcycle gang. It was a defiant act, completely at odds with his religious upbringing. His mother was a preacher, and he attended church regularly. Although he did not consider himself a preacher of hell, he never shied away from defending his religion, and he once got into an altercation with someone who mocked Jesus. Because of that episode, he was dubbed Dog, a moniker that one of the motorcyclists took to mean God. He fully embraced the term and its associated persona thereafter. Dog the Bounty Hunter and LaFonda Sue Darnell, his first wife, met paths in Denver in the 1970s. Their romance blossomed rapidly, and in 1972, after only a few years of dating, they exchanged wedding vows. They traveled to several different locations together before settling together in Pampa, Texas, LaFonda's hometown. Leland Chapman and Duane Lee Chapman II were the couple's sons. Their marriage, however, began to show signs of strain as their family expanded. Things quickly went downhill as Chapman's growing legal problems put a strain on their relationship. Tragically, Chapman became entangled in a drug deal in 1976. One of his companions got into a quarrel with Oliver, the dealer, as he waited in the car, tragically taking his life. He was nonetheless held responsible by Texas law even though he was outside when the incident happened. Chapman was convicted of murder and given a 5-year prison term. However, he only spent 18 months of that term, because he failed to report the crime. Although Chapman's time in prison marked a turning point, it was far from the end of his journey. As a barber for the guards, he even stepped in during a pivotal occasion during his time there. Guards were about to use deadly force on an escaped prisoner when Chapman stepped in and prevented the man's death. One of the guards gave him advice on his future, becoming a bounty hunter, and respected him for his boldness. Chapman incurred a substantial amount of child support obligations following his early release. In his pursuit of rapid financial gain, he stumbled into bounty hunting, a profession that, to his surprise, even the court overseeing his case had sanctioned. After seeing Chapman's demeanor while incarcerated, the judge came to the conclusion that he possessed the necessary resilience and inventiveness for the position. Although it seemed like a new beginning, LaFonda eventually found that the strain of their situation was too much to handle. Their paths eventually parted in 1977 when she filed for a divorce. Chapman was on the hunt for a new spouse following his divorce. In the same year, he met Integnal at a Colorado biker party, and they had a great chemistry, he stated in his book. When they left the party that night, Chapman said it was together. She informed him she was just 17 when he offered to take her home. The following day, he wed her in order to stay out of prison. She was underage when they got married, and Chapman later claimed they didn't know one another very well. Despite the flaws in their marriage, Chapman and Tegnell managed to have 3 children. Zebediah, their firstborn son, tragically died not long after birth. There were 2 sons, Wesley and James, born into the union, but the marital pressure led to their 1982 divorce. Chapman took a heavy hit following his divorce. He refused to quit up even after losing custody of his children. He traveled to Colorado with the intention of reuniting with his other children. His paths crossed with Lissa Ray Britton in that very bar. Chapman, ever the daring soul, told her he desired a family with her and even offered financial support to help finance the process. Remarkably, Lissa concurred. After divorcing her husband, she wed Chapman. The couple had 3 children together. However, they never really intended for their marriage to endure. Despite the fact that they weren't really compatible, they were married in a flash. The ostentatious Hollywood lifestyle was Chapman's dream, while Lissa yearned for peace and quiet in the forest. Chapman was once again unmarried after her marriage ended in 1991 due to their incompatible views. While still married to Lissa Britton, Dog met his future wife Tawny. Their narrative started in 1988, when Dog arrested Tawny for drug possession, according to his book. A few years down the road, he took her on as his secretary, and their professional connection soon blossomed into something more. Dog wasn't interested in a long-term relationship, but Tawny wanted to settle down. Nonetheless, he caved and wed her after some pressure. Their connection was fraught from the beginning. Dog confessed to being unfaithful, and Tawny struggled with substance usage again. After Dog's mom died away, everything went downhill quickly, causing him to spiral into melancholy and substance misuse. After Dog started an affair with Beth Smith while still married to Tawny, their marriage started to fall apart. Most people remember Beth Smith as Dog the bounty hunter's wife and business partner, but their story began long before they became famous. Beth was actually evading capture in 1988 when their paths initially crossed. She went on to say that the accusation of stealing 2 lemons from the grocery shop was the beginning of her problems. She stepped out with the lemons in her hand while attempting to use a payphone, leading to her arrest. Add insult to injury, Beth had a stack of outstanding traffic tickets and was in possession of an unregistered handgun. She contacted Dog, a bail bondsman at the time, in her desperate need to get released from jail. He left her in jail for 12 hours while he sent the documentation by bus. Beth attempted to act casually upon her arrival at his office, but Dog could see through her. In retrospect, Beth acknowledged that she was head over heels for him at that very moment. There was no denying the chemistry between Dog and Beth, but their relationship was not without its difficulties. Dog maintained contact with Beth despite his multiple marriages, flings with other women, and battles with substance abuse. As early as 1997, Dog, Beth and his children ultimately decided to move in together. In time, they tied the knot and established Dakine Bail Bonds, a thriving bail bond company. In 2003, they helped apprehend Andrew Luster, the heiress to the Max Factor wealth, which was their big break. Dog discovered Luster in Mexico after he was wanted for sexually assaulting several women. Border Patrol agents detained Dog because bounty seeking is against the law in that country. To free himself and his accomplices from prison, he had to post bail. It was ironic because Dog couldn't lawfully make an arrest in the US because of his criminal record. Even the Florida Bail Bondsman Association had a representative say that what he was doing might be legally construed as kidnapping. Even though there were legal obstacles, Dog was thrust into the spotlight by the capture. The 4th season of Dog the Bounty Hunter debuted in 2004 on A&E, and the viewers couldn't get enough. For almost 10 years, Dog kept viewers glued to his every move as he pursued wanted criminals and faced dangerous scenarios. He became instantly recognizable by his outrageous mullet, sunglasses, and flamboyant demeanor. It was Dog's intention to frighten away wanted criminals, as he would later clarify. Their show wasn't merely about pursuing criminals, as Beth frequently stressed. Fundamentally, it was about assisting others and providing opportunities for redemption. The show was a huge success, but Dog's explosive attitude caused more problems than it solved. A leaked phone conversation between Dog and his son in 2007 caused him to face outrage. In the course of the discussion, Dog uttered a racial slur and voiced his fear that its public exposure would be disastrous for his career. You may find the recording in the National Enquirer. And they got back to them quickly. In the midst of his investigation, Andy suspended the show. In a public statement, Dog apologized for the hurt he caused and promised to change his ways. He apologized on CNN and promised he would never use the word again. The network was won over by his authenticity, and the show was able to make a triumphant comeback to TV. A cultural icon, Dog the Bounty Hunter was known for his long blonde hair, distinctive sunglasses, and Beth's extraordinary capacity to pursue fugitives while wearing high heels. For 8 years, viewers loved the show because of the memorable family motivational speeches before each trip. However, Andy shocked viewers by canceling the show despite its ongoing popularity. As soon as you separate from A Dog and Beth, the Chapman family's hunt show on CMT welcomed a new era, Andy. There were obstacles along the way, but overall, it was a new beginning. Due to the family's strong commitment to the bail bond industry, they had to temporarily halt filming as they battled to preserve their beloved career. K9 and Beth came back on TV after a little hiatus. The focus, however, was on something far more intimate and tragic this time around. Beth received the news of her throat cancer diagnosis in 2017. In a heartfelt message, she broke the news to her admirers and vowed to fight with all her strength. There was a glimmer of optimism after tumor removal surgery. By November, Beth had been given the all-clear, and it appeared like their worst nightmare had passed. Unfortunately, their respite was not long-lasting. Beth got terrible news just 1 year after undergoing yet another operation. Her lungs were now the target of the cancer's reappearance. Beth seemed unfazed by the bleak outlook. She was so resolute in her determination to keep going that by the end of 2018, she was talking about the battle as if it were any other obstacle in her life. It was June 26, 2019, when Beth went away. Word got out thanks to Duane, declaring her heavenly arrival and profound affection for her. Even in her last moments, Beth avoided looking at him. Dog reasoned that she wanted him to keep fighting because she could tell he was giving up hope. Despite his inner conflict, he did his best to lift her spirits by assuring her that everything will be all right. His sorrow was evident, and the magnitude of her loss was nearly too much to take. Finally, Dog was told by Beth to release her. Because he couldn't fathom a world without her, he found it difficult to accept. However, she drew her last breath before he could answer. The loss of Beth was more devastating to Dog the bounty hunter than anybody could have predicted. During a heartfelt interview with Dr. Oz, he discussed his lowest point in mourning, admitting that he contemplated self-medicating with pills and couldn't stop crying. The good news is that he abandoned the plan. The depth of his struggle was revealed, though. Along with his mental anguish, Dog was also in the midst of severe financial difficulties. He told the Toronto Star that he was broke from paying for Beth's medical bills and supporting their big family. Even his home was in jeopardy due to his inability to pay the mortgage. Losing Beth added further weight to an already difficult moment. A few months following her demise, Dog began to have difficulty breathing and chest discomfort. He first dismissed it as insignificant, attributing it to the physical pain in his heart. He claimed to Fox 31 Denver that he attributed it all to his imagination. Yet, he resolved to consult a doctor once the symptoms persisted. Dog, like many guys his age, was prone to ignoring his health issues. Taking care of himself was something that Beth had always pushed him to do. He was putting his own health last. Fortunately, Dr. Oz intervened and persuaded him to undertake crucial tests. Taking these health concerns seriously was so important that they even filmed the procedure on his show. Dog confessed to smoking heavily for almost 40 years, beginning when he was 12 years old and continuing with daily doses of up to 3.5 packs. Still, the cardiac specialists discovered that his condition was remarkably stable. A pulmonary embolism, a blood clot in his lungs, was a big problem, though. The disease is described by Dr. Oz as potentially fatal due to the clot's ability to cut off blood supply to the lungs. Dog decided to stop smoking for good since he was determined to change his situation. To combat the mental health issues that were contributing to his addiction, he began taking nicotine patches and entered treatment. Changes in Dog's life started when he received support and encouragement from Dr. Oz and his staff. Dog the Bounty Hunter triumphed all these obstacles and went on to win a new WGN show, Dog's Most Wanted. The avenging of the nation's most heinous criminals is what has made Dog the Bounty Hunter famous. One of his notable captures was Leonard Trujillo Jr., a felon with a lengthy criminal record that included armed robbery and police officer assault. Dog and his squad were hell-bent on catching Trujillo, even though he'd been on the run. The search was difficult. Determined not to let Trujillo escape, they pursued him relentlessly for 12 days across southern Colorado. With Trujillo's time running out, the squad confidently sent out a message. Indeed, they were correct. His arrest was anything from peaceful when he was apprehended. After a fight broke out, Trujillo's head was covered in blood. Dog and his group remained resolute as he yelled insults, mockingly calling themselves God's gangsters. There was more going on that day than Trujillo. They achieved a significant victory by apprehending 4 other individuals. An episode of Dog's Most Wanted chronicled the dramatic events, which the team taped just months after Beth's loss. It was an emotional chapter for everyone involved. However, following Beth's passing, Dog's life took some surprising turns. A family acquaintance named Moon Angel was the subject of dating rumors 7 months later. As a result of the revelation, his daughter Lissa became angry and took to social media, accusing Angel of being a homewrecker and Dog of being an imposter. While everything was going on, Dog mentioned how Angel had gotten him through a bad patch. When Dog made an emotional visit on Dr. Oz's show and proposed to Angel on live air, things took an even more unexpected turn. She insisted they were simply buddies while looking astonished. As Dog would later clarify, the suggestion was more of a prank to see how others would react than anything else. No matter how muddled things got, they never actually tied the knot. Dog had publicly declared his intention not to remarry after Beth's death, but fate had other ideas. Francie Frayne, a woman who had also lost a husband, was one of the people he encountered along the way. After Dog first tried to recruit Francie's husband for some housekeeping duties, Francie's husband died of cancer. The common ground between Dog and Francie was their grief. They were able to lean on one another during their times of sadness. Dog would later reveal that they frequently discussed Beth and Francie's late husband. Dog began seeing Francie in March of 2020, and by May of that year, he had proposed. Dog calmly said that even if Beth were still alive, she would have wished for him to find happiness, even though many were unhappy with his apparent haste to move on from Beth. Duane and Francie were married in September of 2021, and they started uploading pictures and videos of their honeymoon and other activities on social media to show off their new life together. Dog soon after released Hunter's Creed, a film in which he reflected on his life following Beth's death. He also inked a deal with Unleashed, a streaming service, for a new show called Dog Unleashed, in which he would carry on his relentless chase of dangerous offenders. Unleashed President Michael Donovan sued Dog in 2021, claiming that Dog had used a taser unlawfully and made racial and homophobic comments during filming. This caused quite a stir. The lawsuit asserted that Dog, who has a history of murder convictions, unlawfully used the taser to threaten an individual during filming of the cancelled show. According to the lawsuit, the taser was more than simply a prop, but Dog insisted it was. The legal team representing Dog responded by saying that Donovan was acting in retribution after their commercial agreement collapsed. They assured Dog that the accusations would be dismissed, and Dog then threatened to sue Donovan for defamation. In the shadows of the news, Dog encountered yet another obstacle. His tax debts were another source of legal concern. He would have to make tough financial choices in 2022 due to his $1.6 million tax bill from Colorado and Hawaii. After buying a mansion in Colorado with Beth 13 years ago, he sold it for $750,000. He was able to pay off his obligations with the roughly $1.59 million he made from selling the house for nearly double its initial price, thanks to the soaring housing market. Despite Dog the Bounty Hunter's reduced television appearances, he continues to garner news coverage. His recent public appearance with a televangelist, in which he slammed transgender influencer Dylan Mulvaney, caused quite a commotion. Backlash and renewed debate regarding his outspoken attitude ensued after his statements, which included threatening insults and misgendering Mulvaney, caused controversy. Dog is now living out his faith as an influential Christian. In fact, he chronicles his conversion to Christianity in his book 9 Lives and Counting. Dog sees his new task as a spiritual calling, and he thinks his purpose has changed from rescuing souls to bounty hunting. Yet, as he himself admits, he still harbors some lingering feelings of his former self. His self-description is that of a Christian outlaw. Someone whose heart is as full of joy when he finds salvation for others as it is when he pursues criminals on the run.